sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
After a very promising start to this season, could it be already done for KC's wide receiver, Rashee Rice, attempting to make a tackle after Patrick Mahomes threw an interception?
We're used to teams saying, we don't know, MRI. Here, Andy Reid's being a little more honest. He's leaving hope alive, but I think they already know, which is really, really too bad.
The Early Line, only on Sport. All right, welcome in Game Time Decisions on this first Friday of October the 4th. Welcome in. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by here on the SportsGrid Network as we get ready for one of the best weekends in sports that we can think of in a very, very long time when you consider the fact that in addition to Week 6 of the college football season, you've got Week 5 of the NFL season already kicked off last night with a great game between Tampa Bay and the Atlanta Falcons, one that was decided in overtime. And boy, it helps to win that coin toss if you're the Falcons and have Kirk Cousins as your quarterback, as it took them all of a couple of plays to take it to the house there and beat their rival in that division, the Tampa Bay Bucks, in what was really the most entertaining Thursday night game that we have seen in a long, long time here. And boy, this is going to be a very interesting NFC South division moving forward, especially with the Bucks on their way to take on the Saints, and the Falcons will be on their way to the Panthers. But in addition to Week 5 matchups in the NFL, including a London game early on Sunday morning, you also have tomorrow the Major League playoffs, and all 4 divisional matchups will be in play tomorrow, including the Guardians and Detroit, the Yankees taking on the Royals, the Mets in epic fashion last night get it done against the Milwaukee Brewers. Now they'll get to take on their division rival, the Philadelphia Phillies. And then, of course, the series that will no doubt move the needle the most, the Padres taking on the Dodgers, a battle of National League West rivals there. Boy, it should be a fantastic weekend, not to mention we had an NHL game already today here. Hockey is back, season in full swing on Tuesday. You got MLS, you got a big UFC 307 card coming up. You've got Canadian Football League action. What else could you possibly want? It is the most beautiful time of year when it comes to sports. We got a little something for everybody. And let's face it, who doesn't love urgency? And the Major League Baseball playoffs, it's all about urgency right now. Another short series in store for these teams here, best of 5. And I'm hard-pressed to look at this list of games coming up and try to point out where the underdog has a legit shot of winning out. Now, we saw in the wild card round, and we know, and we talked about it all week long, how in the wild card best of 3, the variance is over the top with this. There's really, moving forward, underdogs, and more underdogs in the wild card series. Best of 3, anything can happen. Throw out the 162-game season and just look to back the teams that are riding the hot hand, because that is essentially what we got in that first round. The Detroit Tigers taking down the Houston Astros. Hilarious. The Guardians already had clinched, were there. And then you couple the fact that the Orioles managed to score 3 runs in 2 games and win and sweep the Baltimore Orioles, who were the top wild card team, who finished just behind the New York Yankees. So that is the best of 3. The best of 5 is a little bit different, given the fact that in all likelihood, the teams that had the rest are going to be able to set up their rotations a little bit better than the teams that had to play in the wild card. So the Yankees, for instance, are going to have Garrett Cole on the mound there tomorrow as they get ready to take on the Kansas City Royals, who opted to go with Waka in game 1, and then they'll have Cole Reagans and Seth Lugo for games 2 and 3. The Yankees are the biggest favorite, as you can see on the board there, in these divisional series, and with good reason. I mean, hey, listen, you score 3 runs in a couple of games, you limp into the playoffs to begin with, the Kansas City Royals, and all of a sudden your pitching and your bullpen becomes unhittable, and a lot of that, give them credit for, but also give the Baltimore Ravens a lot of criticism. The Baltimore Orioles, rather, give them a lot of criticism, because the fact that you can get shut out at home in game 1 and manage just 1 solo home run in an elimination spot at home is just purely embarrassing, especially taking on a team that during the final month of the regular season in September couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat. And they still couldn't, but neither could they. This is going to be, I'm going to venture to say, 3 runs in this series is not going to be enough to take down the Yankees. The Yankees, to me, in this series are clearly the team that in all likelihood will win. They're the biggest favorite. But when you look at the rest of these series, the Guardians are a small favorite over the Detroit Tigers. They played the series this year in their own division. The Guardians won 7 games. Detroit won 6. So this was a very close season series throughout. Now, on paper, the Guardians are a much better team than the Detroit Tigers, who a month ago we were all laughing at the idea that they'd even be in the postseason. There's no way we're going to get 3 teams from the American League Central in the postseason. Want to bet? Because that's exactly what we have here. But these 2 teams know each other very well. The interesting part is that they have not played one another for a hot minute. It's been a little while since these 2 teams actually went at it. Detroit is clearly a different team now than when they were playing the bulk of these games during the regular season. And look at that price, minus 130. Some Guardian backers will tell you that this is just way too short a number for a team that's got better hitting, better defense, better bullpen. There is no way that they should only be a minus 130 favorite. Well, I think Detroit's very much alive in this one. And I think with Tariq Skubal going in game 1, if that's the direction they're going to go, then yes, Detroit wins game 1. I think Detroit's very alive to win this series. I can say the same thing about the Mets. Anybody stepping in front of the Mets train right now, when you look at that series price, the New York Mets as a short dog here have absolutely no advantages as far as I'm concerned with the starting pitching. Philadelphia has been sitting here waiting. They're going to go Zach Wheeler. They're going to go Nola. And does it really matter? The series could be over by that point. But we could say this for the Mets down the entire stretch here. They've been hobbling guys. They activated Kodai Senga off the they're going to put him on the roster to start game one. Kodai Senga hasn't been healthy, it feels like, in forever, but somehow they are going to hobble together a pitching staff and roll it out here against the Phillies, who I still worry played their best baseball in the first half of the season and not the second half. The Mets are a runaway train and very much alive in that series against the Phillies. And I think we can all agree that the Padres, many people believe, is the team to beat in the National League. And you look at those numbers there, that's a pretty decent number to go up against the Dodgers. They have been the best team in baseball for how long now? And the Dodgers have been middle of the road since the All-Star break. Why not go with the hot hand? So outside of the Yankees as a $2 favorite in the series, every other dog in the series, best of five, to me is very much alive and well. And this could very well be total craziness over the next week in Major League Baseball. So buckle up. You got to love the postseason. It starts tomorrow. All four of those series will take center stage, plus college football, plus NFL. And we'll dive into it all as Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
Talk about the regular season MVP, because for a while it was just one name. Now a second name has emerged. Joseph, take it from here.
Yeah, look, every year I always tell people I bet two people for MVP. Usually it's Patrick Mahomes and somebody else to start the season.
Right.
And then I watch it shrink and then decide whether or not I want to double down, cash out, figure that out. This year was the first time where I did not see anybody else that I really could make a case for. I wanted to let it play out a little bit. And now I'm jumping in the pool to somebody else for that number two, that head. And that person's Josh Allen. And there's a couple reasons why. You've seen Vegas move significantly. The Bills are 3-0. Huge game coming up this weekend for them against the Ravens. But regardless if they win or lose, I think the Josh Allen narrative is an interesting one. Josh Allen is playing with kind of a no-name offense, right? You know, we know Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir and all those guys because we're fantasy nerds. But the general public does not know who these guys are. I'm telling you right now, if you went to the general football fan and say, what do you think of Khalil Shakir? They'd be like, who? I have no idea what you're talking about, right? And I think that is positive because it looks like Josh Allen is just literally taking this team, putting it on his shoulders, and willing them to victory every week. And that's because he is. And the shot that he took on Stephon Diggs, saying it's nice to play with a bunch of guys who just don't care about the stats, they just care about winning, I think tells you that Josh Allen feels free. He feels loose. And if you look at this award for the last couple of years, it's been dominated by a couple people, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar hasn't gotten off to the best start Patrick Mahomes still has. It's why he's towards the top of this award still. But after Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, the next closest guy is C.J. Stroud at plus 1,400.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions on this Friday here, October the 4th. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by as we get ready for the first weekend in October, and it is an epic one. And we talked about Major League Baseball, the postseason underway tomorrow. We are that much closer to crowning a World Series champion there. We've got college football in full effect. NFL, NHL is back. The NBA is playing preseason games. And, oh, yeah, the WNBA playoffs. We still got to crown a champion there, and we're going to be a little bit closer after tonight. That's where the coach, James Young, steps in here, helping us cash a couple of tickets before it's all said and done. And, Coach, it's been an interesting playoff so far in these two series with these four teams left. We'll start with the Minnesota Lynx and the Connecticut Sun coming up 7:30 here tonight in Game 3. I got a lot of guys telling me, Coach, that I need to run and bet the Minnesota Lynx to win the championship now at about 4 or 5 to 1. I don't even know that they get past the Connecticut Sun here. How confident are you?
First things first, I got to do it. Meet the Mets, greet the Mets.
Oh, no.
Okay, that was enough. That's for Miakovsky. But anyway, listen, when it comes down to it, this series, Joe, is what I love about playoff basketball, right? Trash talk, the defense, the half court. So to me, this series, even though that over-under is at 150.5, and I think the other one is at like at 163, 164.5, doesn't it seem like this game is going to play to the under? You have two teams that are extremely good defensively. You have two teams that walk the ball up the floor. I think this is a low-scoring game. I feel right now, the way that the Liberty are playing, and Sandy Bordello kind of, we'll talk about it in a second, kind of putting Leona Farmic into the starting lineup has been something that was very smart. It balances the team because you're going to bring Vandersloot in with the second group, and then Sloot can still play down the stretch. I think they're the best team in the W. But to me, this game is going to be about defense, particularly, Joe, at the three-point line. You look at game 1, right? The worst shooting team in the WNBA from 3, Connecticut. They shoot 40% from 3. They steal home court. Game 2, what happens? Minnesota shoots at 40% from 3. And then you get, obviously, Connecticut down to 25%. I love the under in this game of 150.5. I wouldn't be surprised if it went under 140. I think this is going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight. They're going to let them decide it themselves. And Marina Mabrey to lead the game in three-pointers made. Why? It's not the shots you make, it's the shots you take. And she's averaging 10.3 three-point attempts so far this postseason. She's their shooter. Marina Mabrey, plus money, lead the game in threes made.
So how about a correlation here? Because Nafisa Collier is the leading scorer tonight, and in this game, then chances are they're winning, right? If not, this game is probably going the other way, and it's probably staying way under. No, so there's a couple of different props and game outcomes you can probably correlate here. I got to think if she goes off, they win the game.
Yeah, if you think, listen. And she had, Joe, she didn't have her worst game of, the season. She had 9 points. You know, one other time she had 9 points, 6 rebounds. Guess who? Connecticut Sun. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So they think they maybe unlocked something here. I think Big Fish follows up with a big performance. If you look at her performance last time, she had 9.6 rebounds. She came out of the Olympic break with 17 and 12. The Fisher Collier is a double-double. Another thing I like tonight a lot. I think she gets going. And if you want to put a PRA together, how about Alyssa Thomas? Alyssa Thomas, you know, Joe, she's going to get the rebounds and the assists.
Yeah.
But you've seen an uptick in scoring in her, kind of carrying on the load more than she has during the regular season. When you look at someone like Alyssa Thomas, you know, she's scoring 16.5 points per game during the playoffs. So she averaged 10.6 during the regular season.
Yep.
So there's a play there. Alyssa Thomas, PRA, I think it's 32.5, I'm not mistaken. Look for that to go over as well. Stars will shine tonight.
I love it. All right, it's win or go home here for the Aces, Coach. The champs back against the wall at home. A lot of star power in this game, but I almost feel like the Aces in the first half isn't a bad look. If they don't come out swinging, I don't know that they're going to have enough to come back in this game in the second half. What are you thinking?
Very simple. Aces have to play with the lead. And you bring up a really great point, Joe. I think, and I didn't even talk about it, I think one of the best, I might even go to half. I'm going to go first quarter. I may just say flat out. Right now, first quarter spread is minus 145. I just need them to win the first quarter. If you really think about it, folks, Becky Hammond had a press conference after game 2 and basically trashed her team to the media. Like they haven't done it all year. So if you are a team like Vegas, you got to come out and you got to throw the first punch. And you got to punch early, and you have to play with the lead because especially the way that Sabrina Ionescu is playing down the fourth quarter of games, that makes you think that they got to play with the lead. I think the Aces are going to win it outright, the game. And if you want to take the first quarter, go ahead for them to win. And I'm going to say this. If the Liberty win, it's going to be in the last minute. I got a feeling that the Aces win, and I think it's going to be a blowout. I think they win by double digits tonight because maybe Sandy Bordello will punt the game and say, we got to save up for game number 4.
It's interesting, Coach. The way when I looked it up, they're 0-5 against the Liberty this year, right? And they haven't won a first half either. They've been trailing at the break in every one of those losses there. So to your point, they better play with the lead here, Coach. And who leads them tonight?
Oh, simply put, Asia Wilson. But Kelsey Plum, Lord have mercy, she couldn't be any worse than she was in game number 2. They come back. This is going 4 games.
4 games. You heard it here from the coach. A lot of different ways to approach these props, sides, totals, halves, series. Always a pleasure, Coach. Enjoy the games. Brother, we'll talk to you again. Championship time. Game Time Decisions continues after this.
Talk about the regular season MVP because for a while it was just one name. Now a second name has emerged. Joseph, take it from here.
Yeah, look, every year I always tell people I bet 2 people for MVP. Usually it's Patrick Mahomes and somebody else to start the season.
Right.
And then I watch it shrink and then decide whether or not I want to double down, cash out, figure that out. This year was the first time where I did not see anybody else that I really could make a case for. I wanted to let it play out a little bit. And now I'm jumping in the pool to somebody else for that number 2, that hedge. And that person's Josh Allen. And there's a couple reasons why. You've seen Vegas move significantly. The Bills are 3-0. Huge game coming up this weekend for them against the Ravens. But regardless if they win or lose, I think the Josh Allen narrative is an interesting one. Josh Allen is playing with kind of a no-name offense, right? You know, we know Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir and all those guys because we're fantasy nerds. But the general public does not know who these guys are. I'm telling you right now, if you went to the general football fan and say, what do you think of Khalil Shakir? They'd be like, who? I have no idea what you're talking about, right? And I think that is positive because it looks like Josh Allen is just literally taking this team, putting it on his shoulders, and willing them to victory every week. And that's because he is. And the shot that he took on Stephon Diggs, saying it's nice to play with a bunch of guys who just don't care about the stats, they just care about winning, I think tells you that Josh Allen feels free. He feels loose. And if you look at this award for the last couple of years, it's been dominated by a couple people, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar hasn't gotten off to the best start Patrick Mahomes still has. It's why he's towards the top of this award still. But after Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, the next closest guy is C.J. Stroud at plus 1,400.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on this Friday on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by here as we are getting ready for that first weekend in October. And what a weekend it is. And yes, the NHL is back. We're right in the midst here. Month number 2 of the NFL season, week 5. Kicking off last night in epic fashion. We've got a London game coming up this Sunday. So we got early morning football to wake up to on Sunday. That's always fun. And then, of course, week 6 of the college football season is here. We had a couple of games last night. We got a couple of really good games coming up here tonight that we're going to be looking forward to, including the red-hot running Rebels. UNLV going to be taking center stage as they host Syracuse tonight. And Syracuse, interesting spread in this game here with the Qs getting 6 points, 5.5, 6 points here. It was as high as 6.5. It looks like the buyback is happening here. And UNLV last week made headlines because their quarterback, Matthew Sluka, decided that, you know what? Yeah, I'm out of here. You're not paying me enough money. Welcome to the new college football. That's what we have to look forward to because the NCAA are complete you-know-what. And instead of trying to navigate this Pandora's box they opened up, they're just throwing their hands up and hoping it all works out. It's not going to work out. And Matthew Sluka was just the first of many dominoes that are about to fall here, I think, over the next week or so, as we just learned of another player for the University of Central Florida, UCF wide receiver has now stepped down saying he's going to hit the portal because there's not enough money. So there is this whole thing is not going to go away anytime soon. And that's because the NCAA has completely screwed this up. However, you got rid of Matthew Sluka. He steps down, and guess what? The market went crazy, fading them last week with Fresno State. And guess what they did? They absolutely boat raced Fresno State. Why? Because it turns out the backup quarterback was every bit as good and reliable as Matthew Sluka was. So welcome to college football and college sports where the overreactions are plentiful. Now they're at home. They're welcoming in a Syracuse team that, if we're being honest, and this is what this game comes down to, Syracuse can't stop the run. They're a very good pass defending team. The problem with UNLV's offense, yeah, they run the ball 71% of the time, 71%, and they're really good at it. And the Orange, well, they got no answer to that. Offensively, the only thing they can't run the ball and the only thing they can do is drop McCord back to throw the ball 35, 45 times a game. That is a recipe for disaster on the road here. Sorry, too one-dimensional Syracuse for me. I like UNLV's strength on offense, which is running the ball, going right at the heart of the weakness of that defense of Syracuse. They are at home. I do think UNLV rolls them here tonight. The total has been bet down. We had 58.5. I'm starting to see 55.5 now in the marketplace. So that is a 3-point drop. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that UNLV, go. They are going to control the possessions. They're going to control time of possession. And the UNLV defense, much better than people are giving them credit for. And I think you'll see that here tonight in a very one-dimensional Syracuse team. So I agree with the push to the under. The other game you're going to hear a lot about here tonight is Michigan State on the road against Oregon, laying 23.5 points. Michigan State, with Jonathan Smith, their head coach, former Oregon State head coach, knows Oregon real well. He also happens to be one of the more profitable underdog coaches in all of college football. They have been very competitive, Michigan State. They're going to be very competitive in this game. In the meantime, Oregon, boy, they got a pretty big game on deck here. Might be looking ahead a little bit past Michigan State. Wouldn't shock me. Oregon will win, but it wouldn't shock me if it's not by 4 touchdowns like the market seems to think is going to happen. So those are 2 big games coming up. We've got plenty of other top 25 games coming up tomorrow here as week 6 of the college football season should be epic. And we've got much more on the slate of games coming up next here on Game Time Decisions.
Talk about the regular season MVP because for a while it was just one name. Now a second name has emerged. Joseph, take it from here.
Yeah, look, every year I always tell people I bet two people for MVP. Usually it's Patrick Mahomes and somebody else to start the season.
Right.
And then I watch it shrink and then decide whether or not I want to double down, cash out, figure that out. This year was the first time where I did not see anybody else that I really could make a case for. I wanted to let it play out a little bit. And now I'm jumping in the pool to somebody else for that number two, that hedge. And that person's Josh Allen. And there's a couple reasons why. You've seen Vegas move significantly. The Bills are 3-0. Huge game coming up this weekend for them against the Ravens. But regardless if they win or lose, I think the Josh Allen narrative is an interesting one. Josh Allen is playing with kind of a no-name offense, right? You know, we know Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir and all those guys because we're fantasy nerds. But the general public does not know who these guys are. I'm telling you right now, if you went to the general football fan and say, what do you think of Khalil Shakir? They'd be like, who? I have no idea what you're talking about, right? And I think that is positive because it looks like Josh Allen is just literally taking this team, putting it on his shoulders, and willing them to victory every week. And that's because he is. And the shot that he took on Stephon Diggs, saying it's nice to play with a bunch of guys who just don't care about the stats, they just care about winning, I think tells you that Josh Allen feels free. He feels loose. And if you look at this award for the last couple of years, it's been dominated by a couple people, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar hasn't gotten off to the best start Patrick Mahomes still has. It's why he's towards the top of this award still. But after Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, the next closest guy is C.J. Stroud at plus 1,400.
All right, welcome back. Game Time Decisions here on this Friday. Thanks so much for making us a part of your weekend. Epic weekend, of course, in sports. You got to love the first weekend in October. And great slate of games tonight in college football. And here to break down some of the bigger games for us this weekend, the one and only, the legendary Colby Dan in the house, man, ready to go. I heard a rumor you might be in attendance in an Arizona State-Kansas game coming up tomorrow. I've already put the call in. We've got bail money all set for you, Colby, so you'll be all right, man. Let the hair down and go to town in Tempe tomorrow. But let's start tonight here. I just talked about UNLV and Syracuse. Syracuse heading out to UNLV. Syracuse is no good against the run, and that's all UNLV is going to do here in this game. McCord's going to drop back 40 times and try to pass on him. I just don't. It feels like I get the market wants Syracuse to be better, but I don't know that Syracuse is better than UNLV. What do you think?
Yeah, I lean Orangeman here, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that they were UNLV's a great rushing team with Sluka. Haj Malik Williams is more of a passing quarterback. Now, he can run a little bit. I think he had like 90-some yards last week. It'll be interesting to see if that's going to be sustainable against the Qs. But I just think at the skill position players, Syracuse can really give them some problems from Arade Gadsden Jr. to LaQuint Allen. They're a pretty well-balanced offense, I think. And I think the Qs in general, you go back to the last time they played a Power 5. They got very fortunate to beat Kansas. I think Syracuse can come in there and get the win, especially knowing that they've kind of had 2 weeks to prep for this with the bye week in Holy Cross.
So what you're saying is there's a chance, and hold on, Colby, we'll get the microphone all situated in that one. That game, by the way, coming up, it looks like I believe that one is at 7. Actually, no, that's going to be at 9 o'clock Eastern time here tonight. That Syracuse UNLV game. We do have Michigan State at Oregon coming up right around 9 o'clock Eastern time as well. And in that game right now, we're seeing the market continue to move towards Oregon here. 24 is starting to pop up. That's just way, and I mean just way too many points here for a Michigan State team with Jonathan Smith, who is without a doubt got this Michigan State team playing hard. They may not be the most talented team, but they're coming off a 38-7 loss to Ohio State. But I think they're going to be very competitive in this game. Plus, who knows? You knows Oregon better than Jonathan Smith, who the former Oregon State head coach, as we welcome back in Colby Dan. And Colby, it just feels like this is a ton of points, and the back door is going to be wide open given the fact of what Oregon's got coming up here. I can't run to the window and lay 23.5 here. Can you?
No, not at all. I mean, the fact that Jonathan Smith, former Beaver quarterback that won a Fiesta Bowl there, and the fact that he coached there. So I think he really knows what Autzen Stadium's like. And then you look at the look-ahead spot with Ohio State on deck. And really, I'm someone that has an Oregon future to win the national championship. They haven't looked the part all year. They didn't cover against UCLA. Idaho almost got them in game one. Boise should have got them. So I think you take the points all day here. And another thing is Aiden Childs was a part of that Oregon State team as well last season. So it's his second year prepping for a Dan Lanning defense. That's always a little bit of an edge there.
2 spots coming up this weekend, very tricky because your mind tells you one thing, but you look at it and go, I should probably back Georgia at any price to beat Auburn because they're going to be pretty pissed off. But it also feels like this could be a big-time flat spot for Georgia. And the same thing with Alabama, Colby. How much it took a lot out of them to beat Georgia. How much can we trust either team to back this weekend?
I think you could trust the Bulldogs. Now, I like Vandy with the points, I guess, if I had to choose against Bama. But I think you got to roll with the Bulldogs here. And I think a lot of it has to do with, yes, they lost, but more so the other side. I don't know about that Auburn locker room. Hugh Freeze will blame everybody but himself. And to me, that I was on Oklahoma last week. They probably had no business winning that game. But this has kind of been the MO of Auburn with Hugh Freeze there. So I like taking the Dogs minus the points there. It seems like a dumpster fire in Auburn there.
Love this game in the ACC coming up tomorrow. How about Boston College, who threw a knuckleball to people against Western Kentucky and decided that Castellanos all of a sudden couldn't play last Friday? And boy, did that number, if you got the 13 earlier in the week, you were laughing watching this game. But give BC credit, even with Grayson James at quarterback, they came back and won that game somehow. They got Virginia and Thomas Castellanos back under center here, but boy, this feels like a coin flip game. Virginia at home, what are you thinking?
No, I lean Boston College mainly just because Virginia's home environment is normally just pretty empty. It's like one of my comedy shows. There's about 12 people there. And you add in O'Brien, like Bill O'Brien. There's something about an O'Brien coaching Boston College, right? I just feel like whether it's Tom O'Brien, whether it's Bill O'Brien, you get coaching there, you start looking good. Castellanos, as long as he's healthy, I will say this: if he re-injures something, you're probably going to be cooked. But another thing is on the other side of the ball, Anthony Calandria with UVA. He's an exciting sophomore, but he is a wild card. Throws a lot of terrible passes. At the end of the day, I'm going to go with the better line of scrimmage, and Boston College is better on the offensive defensive line.
All right, so you're heading to Tempe to check out Arizona State and Kansas tomorrow. What about the other team from Arizona? As the Wildcats welcome in Texas Tech, I can't imagine sweating out an under in this game. How are either team stopping one another? There might be 100 points in this game when it's all said and done, Colby.
Yeah, and look, I think the better side is just to take Arizona. What a huge win in Salt Lake City last week. They're coming back. I can understand people think a letdown spot, but Texas Tech's 0-1 on the road. They lost at Washington State. I just don't buy in with this Texas Tech team whenever they hit the road. So going out there to Arizona Stadium there in Tucson, Fafita and McMillan, Noah Fafita, the sophomore quarterback, and Tetsuroa McMillan, I think is the best QB wide receiver combo in the country. So I like jumping over there and taking Arizona at home. I also think they have a coaching edge here with Brent Brennan as well.
Yeah, well, McGuire and Texas Tech have been awful underdogs on the road forever. It feels like they just never cover anything. They're brutal. But there also feels like there's going to be a ton of points in Tennessee and Arkansas. Another one I can't imagine sweating an under in here. Tennessee coming off the bye. Pittman has been really good in this spot as a dog. They're at home. That's going to be, what, a 7:30 nighttime there in Arkansas? What do you think?
Yeah, I think Arkansas, the more I did a deep dive on Tennessee, yes, they look good, and yes, their schedule breaks nice, and they should be probably in the mix for the 12-team playoff. But when you look at NC State, Oklahoma, and Kent State, the 3 FBS teams they've faced, all 3 are in the bottom 15 in offense. So I don't know if their defense really is that good. I think Sam pulled Pork Pittman there and Bobby Petrino with Taylor Green, the Boise State quarterback. I think they might be able to exploit this defense for maybe, them puffing up the stats and not being as good. At home with that crowd behind them, give me the Razorbacks to cover, and I think they might be in play for a moneyline spot there.
What are you thinking about? I don't understand the fascination with Texas A&M. I don't like them. I thought they should have lost last week against Arkansas. They got the freshman Reed at quarterback. Wegman may play, may not, but I think he's overrated anyway. Missouri on the road has been really good coming out of a bye. Is there any reason we should not be looking at Missouri here?
Yeah, I mean, I just think Mike Elko is a very good defensive coach, and I think he can pose some problems. Missouri hasn't looked the part to me. They should have lost to Vanderbilt to me, and on the other side of that, I hope Wegman doesn't play because I think Reed, the freshman, the more mobile quarterback, can give more problems. You look at what has Missouri struggled with? Boston College and Thomas Castellanos, mobile quarterback. Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt, mobile quarterback. I think you want the mobile quarterback in this spot. I lean Aggies.
All right, Colby Dan, my man. Safe trip to Tempe. Enjoy the game, brother. Game Time Decisions returns here on the grid.
Talk about the regular season MVP because for a while it was just one name. Now a second name has emerged. Joseph, take it from here.
Yeah, look, every year I always tell people I bet 2 people for MVP. Usually it's Patrick Mahomes and somebody else to start the season. And then I watch it shrink and then decide whether or not I want to double down, cash out, figure that out. This year was the first time where I did not see anybody else that I really could make a case for. I wanted to let it play out a little bit. And now I'm jumping in the pool to somebody else for that number 2, that head. And that person's Josh Allen. And there's a couple reasons why. You've seen Vegas move significantly. The Bills are 3-0. Huge game coming up this weekend for them against the Ravens. But regardless if they win or lose, I think the Josh Allen narrative is an interesting one. Josh Allen is playing with kind of a no-name offense, right? We know Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir and all those guys because we're fantasy nerds. But the general public does not know who these guys are. I'm telling you right now, if you went to the general football fan and say, what do you think of Khalil Shakir? They'd be like, who? I have no idea what you're talking about, right? And I think that is positive because it looks like Josh Allen is just literally taking this team, putting it on his shoulders, and willing them to victory every week. And that's because he is. And the shot that he took on Stephon Diggs, saying it's nice to play with a bunch of guys who just don't care about the stats, they just care about winning, I think tells you that Josh Allen feels free. He feels loose. And if you look at this award for the last couple of years, it's been dominated by a couple people, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar hasn't gotten off to the best start Patrick Mahomes still has. It's why he's towards the top of this award still. But after Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, the next closest guy is C.J. Stroud at plus 1,400.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. A very happy Friday to you. What a Friday it is as we head into the first weekend of October with so much going on in the world of sports. Major League Baseball will be front and center tomorrow as not 1, not 2, not 3, but all 4 divisional matchups will take center stage. Why they opted to go head-to-head with college football and not on a Friday is a little strange, but that's what we got going on to open the weekend here. And George Kurtz ready for some Major League Baseball here. And Kurtz, I said earlier, I look at all 4 of these series, and outside of the Yankees and Royals, every dog to me is live in a 5-game set here. Whether it be Detroit, whether it be the Mets, whether it be they all feel live. The only one that doesn't is the Royals, who will be lucky to score, 3 runs in the entire series here, it feels like. Do you see it the same, or do you think this is all chalk here moving forward?
Well, 3 runs was enough for them to beat Baltimore, wasn't it? That's exactly what they scored, 1-0, 2-1. So, listen, do I think the Yankees are going to win? Yeah. And I'm from the negative Yankee fan, right? I'm usually that guy who tells you, oh, my God, the sky's falling, the roof is collapsing here. This brings back memories of the 80s, 70s, and 80s if you're a Yankee fan. I do go back that far. Chris Chambliss, Gossage, Nettles, George Brett, Amos Otis, Freddie Potts. I could go on and on here. Frank White and company there. So it does bring back memories. But everything is falling the Yankees' way. The number 1 team they wanted to see gone, Houston, gone. Baltimore gave problems all season long, gone. You're playing a Royals team that, listen, Ragon's good pitcher, right? Walker, good pitcher. Lugo, good pitcher, but they're not dominating. They shouldn't be able to shut the Yankees down. All right, the Yankees have their own issues. Don't get me wrong, right? I mean, we know what defense is iffy, to say that, put at least. I don't know who's going to hit outside of Soto and Judge, but Cole's lined up the pitch, and he should be fine. The Yankees haven't played in 6 days. That could be a problem tomorrow, Joe. Neither have by the way, the Yankees and Guardians, by the way, think about it. They will play 3 games in 10 days. They're not playing Saturday. They're playing Monday. They're playing Wednesdays. 3 games in 10 days they will have played. These 2 teams could get off to a little bit of a slow start here. That being said, like the Yankees here, Cleveland, Scooble's going to be able to go twice in that series, man. I kind of like Detroit. I think I would take the plus money with Detroit here. I do. I like San Diego over the Dodgers here, but that's close. What's changed my mind on that series is Musgrove being out now, right? He's got Tommy John. He's done. So I think that really does put it towards the Dodgers. But I think that series is going 5 games. Joe, so I think it's a long series there. It could go either way. But give me the Dodgers now that Musgrove is out there. I do like the Phillies over the Mets, but that's a rivalry. Those 2 teams don't like each other at all. But I'll take the Phillies to win that one as well in 5.
Problem I have with that series is that, it's funny the way the schedule works here. Having looked at it, Kurtz, the American League teams will only play 1 back-to-back day. The National League teams play back-to-back twice, and that's not good for a team like the Dodgers, who can't figure out who the hell they're throwing out this is starting pitcher from game to game. Having to go back-to-back like that twice in a series is not going to be easy. Plus, I think the Padres have the better bullpen. So even without Musgrove, it feels like advantage Padres, but the market, I'm shocked at this price. Has anybody been better than the Padres since the All-Star break? I just don't understand how what happens if the Padres win game 1? What's the number switch to here, Kurtz? Are they the favorite?
Oh, they're definitely. I think any team that wins game 1 is going to be the favorite, right? You're only going to win 2 more games. Padres win game 1. It'll certainly be a big boost because the Dodgers, you just said it, their starting pitching doesn't go deep. And I don't think there's any doubt, by the way, that the bullpen for San Diego is better. I don't even think that's a debate. Right, but Dodgers bullpen is, listen, Kopech has stabilized things, right? He has stabilized things in the 9th inning there. But other than that, I don't know if I trust anybody else in that bullpen. The problem with the Dodgers is going to be this. Yamamoto, okay, I think he'll be good tomorrow. I think. We haven't seen a lot of him, but I think he'll be good. Flaherty has been good. I still don't know how the Baltimore Orioles allowed Flaherty to get out of the American League and how they didn't acquire him, but whatever. And then after that, you don't know. Right, Buehler's been a softball pitcher. He's not that guy. This is what worries you about the Dodgers. They do have to outslug these teams. All right, Landon Knack, I know he's scheduled to be the number 4 starter. He's probably number 3 in my mind. He's better than Buehler right now. So if Yamamoto or Flaherty falter, the Dodgers are in a lot of trouble here. Because as much as we love their lineup, Ohtani, he's a freak. All right, Hernandez, great year. Freeman will be back, by the way. He's healthy. He's playing. Mookie Betts, superstar. Generally, though, offense doesn't truly win it for you in the playoffs, right? Pitching calms that down. You need to pitch. You need to play defense. You need the bullpen. Dodgers, they're a little shaky in starting pitching. I don't trust the bullpen here. Defense is fine. So, I said, I think the series is going 5. Whoever makes the least amount of mistakes in game 5 wins.
Interesting stat, too, that I saw here, Kurtz, is that the San Diego Padres starting pitchers this year in 13 games held the Dodgers to a 198 batting average. 198. The damage was done versus the Padres relievers and not the starters. So there could be some first 5 plays in that series for us before it's all said and done. And what do you think, Kodai Senga off the scrap? What? I mean, the Mets are literally holding tryouts for pitchers now, Kurtz, the rest of the way through here. And you know what? Probably won't matter. They're probably still going to beat the Phillies here. It's kind of hard to believe, but Kodai Senga is your game 1 starter.
That's just throwing money against the wall, see if it sticks. How far? I mean, What are you going to get from him? What can he do? I mean, some of the theory are thinking here maybe, you're facing Zach Wheeler anyway. Well, let's give it a shot. It's a game we're not expected to win, so why not just throw Senga in there, see if he can give us something. I'm not surprised he's back. I might have thought of it more as a reliever because that's, they have all sorts of issues in the bullpen. So I might have thought it would have been there, but I think it's just that they feel like there's nothing to lose here. Why not throw him for game 1, see what happens?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting how the rotation lines up there. But rest versus rust, it's a legit concern for some of these game 1s here. And don't forget, the Guardians, their last game of the regular season was postponed. It was canceled altogether. So they haven't played in even longer than anybody else. And yet you got the Mets and Detroit. These teams have all been playing, and you get that mojo rolling. It's why Arizona and Texas were in the World Series last year, because they never stopped playing. So it'll be interesting. We'll talk some NFL with George Kurtz when Game Time Decisions continues on the Grid.
Talk about the regular season MVP because for a while it was just one name. Now a second name has emerged. Joseph, take it from here.
Yeah, look, every year I always tell people I bet 2 people for MVP. Usually it's Patrick Mahomes and somebody else to start the season.
Right.
And then I watch it shrink and then decide whether or not I want to double down, cash out, figure that out. This year was the first time where I did not see anybody else that I really could make a case for. I wanted to let it play out a little bit. And now I'm jumping in the pool to somebody else for that number 2, that hedge. And that person's Josh Allen. And there's a couple reasons why. You've seen Vegas move significantly. The Bills are 3-0. Huge game coming up this weekend for them against the Ravens. But regardless if they win or lose, I think the Josh Allen narrative is an interesting one. Josh Allen is playing with kind of a no-name offense, right? We know Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir and all those guys because we're fantasy nerds. But the general public does not know who these guys are. I'm telling you right now, if you went to the general football fan and say, what do you think of Khalil Shakir? They'd be like, who? I have no idea what you're talking about, right? And I think that is positive because it looks like Josh Allen is just literally taking this team, putting it on his shoulders, and willing them to victory every week. And that's because he is. And the shot that he took on Stephon Diggs, saying it's nice to play with a bunch of guys who just don't care about the stats, they just care about winning, I think tells you that Josh Allen feels free. He feels loose. And if you look at this award for the last couple of years, it's been dominated by a couple people, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar hasn't gotten off to the best start Patrick Mahomes still has. It's why he's towards the top of this award still. But after Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, the next closest guy is C.J. Stroud at plus 1,400.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network as we round out this first hour together. George Kurtz in the house as we get ready for Week 5 here, Kurtz. Great game last night, maybe the best game we've seen on a Thursday night all season long. That was a lot of fun. And now we get our very first Sunday morning football here with the Jets taking on Minnesota in London. And Man, it just feels like everybody loves this Minnesota team now. And boy, is this not a buy low, sell high spot with these two teams. What do you think we're going to get here early Saturday morning? That line is not moved, Kurtz, for the amount of public support for Minnesota, and that line is not moved past 2.5. I find that interesting.
Well, it's our Sam Darnold revenge game, right? Zach Wilson just got some level of revenge last week. He didn't play, but Broncos win. Darnold is going to play. He's been playing well. All right, now, I don't want to say I give the Jets a pass, but last week it was miserable here in New York. All right, it was cold, it was rainy, it was just a miserable day, and the Jets had all sorts of issues. Problem is, it can be that way in England, too. I think it's 50-50 from rain there on Sunday, so we'll see how that goes. I can't like the Jets. Even in their wins, I mean, come on, you beat Tennessee, you got lucky because Levis, and you beat New England. It's terrible. All right, so you haven't beaten anybody yet. You win on Sunday. Okay, I may change my mind here. This is a good Minnesota team. People forget how well Brian Flores. All right, maybe not in the second half versus Green Bay last week, but he's had a really good season turning that defense around as well. I think the numbers are about right here. I do like the Vikings to win. There'll be a small play. It's the morning game. If this is an afternoon game, I probably wouldn't touch it. But it's the morning game. I'm doing FST during it, so give me something to root for here. Give me the Vikings here. 40.5, I can't go on. I'm going to go over. I don't feel great about it because the Jets are having trouble scoring here, but give me the over here just on principle. We'll go the over and the Vikings.
Big one in with Baltimore and Cincinnati for the AFC North there. Another one of these where hovering around 2.5. Cincinnati, the home dog here, getting some help back on the defensive side. B.J. Hill be back at nose tackle there. Murphy, their rookie, He'll be in the lineup. Hendrickson is going to give it a go here. And, well, we all know Baltimore can't run, and you got to rely on Lamar's arm. You ain't beating toe for toe with Joe Burrow in that offense here, are you?
Generally, in these games, Baltimore wins, but Cincinnati scores points. They are high-scoring games in Cincinnati and Baltimore. Yep. Cincinnati's going to have to prove to me they can stop anybody, before I start betting on them. All right, it's nice that I think Burrow is going to put it up his points. I do. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'm on the over again here, 48.5. Give me that. I'm betting on Henry to get an anytime touchdown. Once again, until somebody can stop him. Everybody knows he's getting the ball. It doesn't matter. All right, right now nobody can stop him. The fact that they're getting some players back certainly helps, but they could be rust there as well. Henry anytime touchdown. I think the passing game will work better. Not be great. I'm not expecting big games from Zay Flowers or Bateman. And remember that guy Mark Andrews? No idea what's going on with him, but I'm on the over and Baltimore.
Over and Baltimore there. We also have an interesting one when it comes to the Giants heading out to Seattle. We've learned that Neighbors is out now, concussion protocol. It feels like Seattle should win this game by 1 million, but it's still you-know-who at quarterback for Seattle that, as former Jet guys, Geno Smith could throw 4 interceptions and lose this game single-handedly. I feel like that game is still coming for Geno Smith this year here, Kurtz. What do you think of the Giants' chances to keep it within the number at this point?
No, this is an ass-kicking. I think this is a complete ass-kicking, all right? Giants are taking a long trip out to the Northwest there. You mentioned no Malik Neighbors. If they had Neighbors, I think this could have been a shootout here. I do like Wan'Dale Robinson's props. All right, I think he's going to be that guy who catches a million little balls for, 8 catches, 78 yards, something like that. Fantasy-wise, maybe he gets into the end zone, get you that big day, but I would bet on this touchdown prop. But I love this game for Seattle here. I think Geno's going to throw for 1 million yards. I think, listen, all your Seahawks eat. I think the Seahawks cover here. I think the game could get over, but the problem is the Giants, they're settling for field goals over and over and over again. They can't put the ball in the end zone here. It's my only worry about the overs. You're going to need the Seahawks to do a lot of that, a lot of their own lifting here, but I like the Hawks big time.
Cowboys Steelers, over or under in this one?
I think it's an under. Cowboys are a mess, right? No Parsons, no Lawrence here. Even Diggs is banged up here. It's only CeeDee Lamb, and Pittsburgh will try and take him away. No running game here. Ferguson could have a nice game. I love Fields this week. Fields going to get over his rushing prop. I think he has a big game throwing the ball as well here. I think Pittsburgh wins. Pittsburgh covers.
Pittsburgh at home, getting that 2.5. That total is coming down a little bit here. George, we appreciate it as always. Enjoy the games this week. Game Time Decisions, another hour next here on the Grid.
Talk about the regular season MVP because for a while it was just one name. Now a second name has emerged. Joseph, take it from here.
Yeah, look, every year I always tell people I bet two people for MVP. Usually it's Patrick Mahomes and somebody else to start the season.
Right.
And then I watch it shrink and then decide whether or not I want to double down, cash out, figure that out. This year was the first time where I did not see anybody else that I really could make a case for. I wanted to let it play out a little bit. And now I'm jumping in the pool to somebody else for that number two, that head. And that person's Josh Allen. And there's a couple reasons why. You've seen Vegas move significantly. The Bills are 3-0. Huge game coming up this weekend for them against the Ravens. But regardless if they win or lose, I think the Josh Allen narrative is an interesting one. Josh Allen is playing with kind of a no-name offense, right? You know, we know Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir and all those guys because we're fantasy nerds. But the general public does not know who these guys are. I'm telling you right now, if you went to the general football fan and say, what do you think of Khalil Shakir? They'd be like, who? I have no idea what you're talking about, right? And I think that is positive because it looks like Josh Allen is just literally taking this team, putting it on his shoulders, and willing them to victory every week. And that's because he is. And the shot that he took on Stephon Diggs, saying it's nice to play with a bunch of guys who just don't care about the stats, they just care about winning, I think tells you that Josh Allen feels free. He feels loose. And if you look at this award for the last couple of years, it's been dominated by a couple people, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar hasn't gotten off to the best start Patrick Mahomes still has. It's why he's towards the top of this award still. But after Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, the next closest guy is C.J. Stroud at plus 1,400.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by as we are getting ready for the first weekend here in October, and what a weekend it is lined up to be. NHL already, game one in the books. That will start on Tuesday this week. Major League Baseball playoffs. We've got week 6 of the college football season, week 5 of the NFL season, our very first London game coming up, throwing a little MLS, you mix in a little NBA preseason, and before you know it, it is a beautiful time of year, and nobody knows that better than our good friend Brady Cannon in the house, stepping in here. And you got to love, first week in October, we got 9 million things going on, playoffs. We've got all sorts of fun things, but ultimately, Brady, it's always going to come down to, well, the NFL week 5. How did you do last night, by the way? Because that was one of the most entertaining Thursday night games I can remember that we've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, it was really good, and shame on the Bucks. They really blew that, and the Falcons tried to blow it, and then the Bucks couldn't take advantage. I mean, that was pretty poor down the stretch, and the officials got involved with, some poor lack of calls there on their part as well. But you're right. This time of year, I went to one of my favorite watering holes last night and had a bite to eat and watched not only the football but saw the Florida Gator, Petey Alonso, go oppo for the Mets, the Miracle Mets, the Amazons, whatever you want to call them. They're back at it. This is probably my favorite when we get NFL football, and then, you get the Sunday night game followed by like an NLCS or a World Series or something like that. So playoff baseball and NFL, absolutely the best. But, thank goodness I had the Bucks on a teaser. I felt that the Bucks were the right side in that game. All my numbers came out to Buccaneers, and thank goodness I played the teaser because that would have been really tough to swallow that one the way they went down, allowing Atlanta to tie it up and take it to overtime and what have you. The second leg of that teaser, Joe, we talked about it earlier in the week. This is hold your nose week for me. I think some ugly dogs are the way to go this week, and I took the 2.5 up to plus 8.5 with the Jets as the second leg of that teaser. The Jets were so bad last week. We were on them. They laid an egg. I think everybody's, starting to give up on this team. And And everybody's in love with the Vikings. Let's remember, though, the Vikings have won 3 straight games outright as an underdog. Now, that typically doesn't go on for too much longer. So I think they could level off here. I think the Jets are going to win this game outright, believe it or not. There's supposed to be a lot of rain. You never know what that is going to mean. It didn't work well for the Jets in New York last week, but I think they're going to bounce back. I think they're going to catch Minnesota. I just have this weird feeling that we're going to see some ugly dogs this week. And heck, if they can't win outright, hopefully they can stay within 8.5 points and I can cash that second leg of the teaser.
Yeah, well, listen, it's a classic buy low, sell high spot here. Minnesota's got their bye week coming up, and the heat is only going to get hotter if the Jets don't win. So there is certainly an opportunity. Not to mention, Brady, this line has not moved an inch.
Yeah. That's a great point you bring up, Joe, because
not at all.
If people really liked Minnesota, this would be at 3 or even 3.5.
Yes.
But the fact that it's staying there at 2.5 tells you they're not in love with the favorite.
No, this has got letdown written all over it. Interesting, this next game here, another buy low, sell high spot here with the Commanders hosting the Browns here. And listen, he's still a rookie. Kid's been fantastic, but this is going to be maybe the best defense he's faced and a very desperate spot. I don't know that I'd be running to the window back into Commanders here.
Yeah, I took the Browns catching 3.5, and I think you're still going to be able to find some of those. I don't know if we'll get to 4. I don't think we will. But I think you'll be able to find 3.5. And there's a lot of 3s in the market right now. You certainly don't want to take that if you can get 3.5. The Browns are really beaten up on the offensive line. You know, the guys are listed as questionable at this point. I don't know if they're going to get back in the ball game, but you're right. The defense is really good. And a similar situation here for Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. They've won 2 straight games outright as underdogs, and now they're back home, thrust into the role of a favorite, expectations. Hey, I love watching this team and this kid, and Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury really have it going. They're probably the party of the NFL right now are the Commanders. They're a lot of fun, but that party might get slowed down a little bit, and it's really hard to back the Browns. I mean, how do you lose to the Raiders? You know, the Browns are just not a pretty picture right now, and Deshaun Watson doesn't look great. He doesn't have a lot of options to throw to at receiver. Nick Chubb not back yet. So, you know, it's absolutely a hold your nose on an ugly dog here on this one, but that's the way the NFL is, Joe. I mean, any team can win on any given Sunday, and yeah, the Commanders, I think they're in for a test here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, there's just, and again, no championships ever won in September. So congratulations, those teams that are rolling. But we all know it eventually goes the other way. No team is as good as they look. No team is as bad as they look in September. October is a different animal. Which, listen, I think Carolina is a perfect example. They're going to deal with a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball this week. But you can scheme your way to screwing up, the quarterback Caleb Williams for Chicago. Another rookie, supposed to win a game. I mean, look at that price. Like, come on. I don't buy it here that we should be laying anything with Chicago over a field goal at this point.
Totally agree. Yep. And I took the 4. In the contest here in Las Vegas, It's at 3.5. I still took that. Anything better than a field goal, I think you're on the right side of it with the Panthers. You know, Chicago got a big win last week over the Rams, but I think that Rams team was just completely out of gas after giving it everything they had. And we saw this early in the year. They left it all out on the field against Detroit. The next week, they got smashed by Arizona. They left it all out on the field against the Niners, won that game, and they were beaten, and they failed to cover against the Bears. And now the Bears, they're feeling kind of fat and happy a little bit. They got, who cares? The Panthers are coming to town. They're awful. And by the way, the Bears go to London next week. So it could possibly be a little bit of a look ahead here where the Bears are, kind of feeling themselves a little bit and preparing for that trip next week. And all of a sudden here, the Panthers come up and catch them. Both of these games, by the way, the Cleveland Browns and the Carolina Panthers fall into a Week 4 system that my good friend Dr. Bob Stoll told me about many years ago in week 4. You know Dr. Bob, world-renowned handicapper. 1 in 3 teams off of a loss, taking on a team off of a win. Since 1980, against the spread, 67% of the time they cover. And I think it makes a lot of sense because look at the Browns, look at the Panthers. The other team in that situation is the Cardinals. The public perception on each of those teams at 1 in 3 off of a loss is, oh boy, the sinking ship. These teams are awful. And then the reverse side of that is the other team, the opponent is off of a win, so their stock is being boosted a bit. And you end up with a line that is a little bit out of whack, maybe by as much as 2 points or so. And so I think it creates line value, does this situation. And I think that's why it's been successful for so many years. And I'm going to write it again, 67%. Hey, if I hit 2 out of 3, I make a profit.
And the Cardinals, you mentioned it, are in that spot here. Nobody is going to think they have an opportunity. The defense is suspect, but that's still a very banged up 49ers team. Feels like a good time to back Arizona here.
Yeah, I think you're another buy low spot. I mean, how were they held to 14 points by a Commanders defense that is not very good? We can talk more on the other side, but I think Arizona is a good candidate for a bounce back as well.
I am with you there. We'll break that one down. We'll talk a little survivor action as Game Time Decisions continues here on the grid.
Talk about the regular season MVP because for a while it was just one name. Now a second name has emerged. Joseph, take it from here.
Yeah, look, every year I always tell people I bet 2 people for MVP. Usually it's Patrick Mahomes and somebody else to start the season.
Right.
And then I watch it shrink and then decide whether or not I want to double down, cash out, figure that out. This year was the first time where I did not see anybody else that I really could make a case for. I wanted to let it play out a little bit. And now I'm jumping in the pool to somebody else for that number 2, that hedge. And that person's Josh Allen. And there's a couple reasons why. You've seen Vegas move significantly. The Bills are 3-0. Huge game coming up this weekend for them against the Ravens. But regardless if they win or lose, I think the Josh Allen narrative is an interesting one. Josh Allen is playing with kind of a no-name offense, right? You know, we know Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir and all those guys because we're fantasy nerds. But the general public does not know who these guys are. I'm telling you right now, if you went to the general football fan and say, what do you think of Khalil Shakir? They'd be like, who? I have no idea what you're talking about, right? And I think that is positive because it looks like Josh Allen is just literally taking this team, putting it on his shoulders, and willing them to victory every week. And that's because he is. And the shot that he took on Stephon Diggs, saying it's nice to play with a bunch of guys who just don't care about the stats, they just care about winning, I think tells you that Josh Allen feels free. He feels loose. And if you look at this award for the last couple of years, it's been dominated by a couple people, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar hasn't gotten off to the best start Patrick Mahomes still has. It's why he's towards the top of this award still. But after Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, the next closest guy is CJ Stroud at plus 1,400.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Brady Cannon hanging out with us here as we were just discussing. It's being reported that it feels like a Devontae Adams trade is imminent. At least what they're reporting now is sources are saying they believe that a deal will be had sooner rather than later here. There is a November 5th trade deadline. But it looks like the reports are they feel this deal is going to be done over the next few days here. And, of course, the Jets are at the top of that list because of his friendship and his playing past there with one Aaron Rodgers. And I guess that makes sense. They're saying it's where he wants to go. He's willing to take less money, I guess, to restructure. He's got $13.5 million left on the current contract. He's willing to facilitate the trade and do what he wants to do. Third round pick. I just don't know how this makes any sense for the Jets, Brady. If you can't protect Aaron Rodgers from the blitz, what the hell difference is it if you have why did you go out and get Mike Williams and you got Lazard and you got a stud receiver you can't get the ball to as it is? So I don't know why this would happen for the Jets. It feels like this would be appeasing Aaron Rodgers if that's exactly what happens here.
Well, there's a lot to unpack here. I think Rodgers needs as much help as he can get because he's dealing with Nathaniel Hackett, who is, it's pretty obvious is challenged. So another weapon in Devontae, a good friend, a familiar target, all that good stuff does make a lot of sense. The Jets offensive line didn't look that bad for a couple weeks. And then all of a sudden the Broncos just destroyed it. So I don't know what happened there. But I also, at the same time, think the Jets are the team that can make this happen the easiest. They've got a little trade bait. They've got some money they can deal with. It makes sense for them. I also kind of believe that Devontae probably had an arrangement with the Raiders where we're going to try and make you happy. We're going to do whatever we can to make you happy. And one of those things was, keeping Derek Carr around, his buddy from college at Fresno State. Well, now Carr's gone. I think Antonio Pierce, he came in at a perfect time when nobody liked McDaniels and he was a rah-rah former player guy. That honeymoon's over now. And I think the veteran players in this locker room are starting to question the credibility of Antonio Pierce. Now the stories are resurfacing about his violations at Arizona State. And, the world's kind of caving in on the Las Vegas Raiders right now. And I believe this team wants to do right by Devontae Adams and say, yeah, we get it. Carr's, your buddy's gone. We're gonna do what we can. And it just seems like the Jets are the easiest fit. I was told by someone very close to the Raiders that by this time next week, and that was on Wednesday. So I think by midweek next week, Devontae will have a new home, if not sooner.
Yeah, and if it's, with the Jets being in London, it'd probably be something. Want to get him in the building sooner rather than later, but it remains to be seen. We'll see what happens here, but chances are he's already played his last down for the Raiders here. All right, so you like Arizona here, the final dog of your card this week, which is every dog here. There's just, as the month turns to October, a lot of buy low, sell high spots. And Arizona against the 49ers getting what? 7.5 is absolutely one of those spots, Brady.
No doubt about it. And you're right. There are some 7.5s in the market in the contests out here, the Circa and the Westgate. They're both at 7. The market has got a little bit of both 7 or 7.5. I'm okay with either number. Obviously, a 7.5 is even more advantageous. The San Francisco 49ers, this will be their first of 2 straight division games. Next week, they play on Thursday night against Seattle. And let's be real here. Over the last, 10, 15 years, Seattle and the Rams have been a much bigger division rivalry for San Francisco than has Arizona. But Arizona's had their number a few times and beaten these guys, even in San Francisco a couple years ago with Colt McCoy at quarterback, beat San Francisco outright. They're still a little banged up injury-wise. And again, you talk about buy low, sell high. I think Arizona is definitely in a buy low spot, only scoring 14 points last week. I expected that to be a shootout with Washington, but only one team showed up to shoot it, and that was the Commanders. I was very surprised that Arizona couldn't get it going offensively, and I think they're a much better team than that. I think they're a pretty decent team, and they can run the ball well. The Niners, they lose Javon Hargrave as one of those, guys that clogs up the middle and helps in stopping that run. I think Arizona will be able to move the ball a little bit. Trey McBride, a huge piece. Their tight end is probable. He was out last week with concussion symptoms. He's supposed to be back this week. I think I tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised if they won it outright. I mean, this is the NFL in 2024, right? But I think they'll definitely stay within 7 or 7.5.
Yeah, I think and look at the board. I mean, this is We still haven't seen a lot of double-digit favorites. I think we had one last week with the 49ers
Right.
over. Well, what else is new? I mean, the 49ers should be double-digit favorites over New England all the time, but there have not been a lot of 2.5s under a field goal. A lot of pick 'em prices. You got Houston, you got Buffalo. Outside of Seattle and the 49ers, this is a wide open board this week. Brady, is it not?
It is, and I am so rooting for you and your success in Circus Survivor. But boy, what a conundrum you have on your hands this week. You know, we talked about the Raiders. It was a few years ago when they fired John Gruden, and I said that locker room's got to be in disarray. They went to Denver and beat the Broncos on the road, but that was Vic Fangio as head coach at the time. Different deal with Sean Payton in town. I think the Raiders are a mess in that locker room. I think the Broncos could be a probable play if you don't have Seattle or San Francisco available. I'm not so sure the Packers aren't a play either as a road favorite. Last week, Jordan Love didn't look like he was quite ready, not quite 100% healthy. I think he might be back and ready to go this week against a very injury, prone or not prone, but depleted Los Angeles Rams team. And the Green Bay fans are going to be 65, 70% of that stadium as well.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you've got Jacksonville at 0-4. Do they get their first win against an unbelievably banged-up Colts team? So a lot still to be decided here. Brady Cannon, always a pleasure. Enjoy the games. We'll be back after this on the Grid.
Talk about the regular season MVP because for a while it was just one name. Now a second name has emerged. Joseph, take it from here.
Yeah, look, every year I always tell people I bet two people for MVP. Usually it's Patrick Mahomes and somebody else to start the season.
Right.
And then I watch it shrink and then decide whether or not I want to double down, cash out, figure that out. This year was the first time where I did not see anybody else that I really could make a case for. I wanted to let it play out a little bit. And now I'm jumping in the pool to somebody else for that number two, that head. And that person's Josh Allen. And there's a couple reasons why. You've seen Vegas move significantly. The Bills are 3-0. Huge game coming up this weekend for them against the Ravens. But regardless if they win or lose, I think the Josh Allen narrative is an interesting one. Josh Allen is playing with kind of a no-name offense, right? We know Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir and all those guys because we're fantasy nerds. But the general public does not know who these guys are. I'm telling you right now, if you went to the general football fan and say, what do you think of Khalil Shakir? They'd be like, who? I have no idea what you're talking about, right? And I think that is positive because it looks like Josh Allen is just literally taking this team, putting it on his shoulders, and willing them to victory every week. And that's because he is. And the shot that he took on Stephon Diggs, saying it's nice to play with a bunch of guys who just don't care about the stats, they just care about winning, I think tells you that Josh Allen feels free. He feels loose. And if you look at this award for the last couple of years, it's been dominated by a couple people, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar hasn't gotten off to the best start Patrick Mahomes still has. It's why he's towards the top of this award still. But after Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, the next closest guy is C.J. Stroud at plus 1,400.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri, and boy, the headlines keep rolling out and being leaked out here regarding Davante Adams and a possible trade, it feels like, to the New York Jets. We had told you earlier that it's being reported that a trade is imminent. We've already heard from Aaron Rodgers that, in fact, of course, he would want Davante Adams by his side. Who wouldn't, right? With the connection that they've had and the Hackett calling the plays. I am not a big believer in this trade. I think it's absolutely crazy when you have a number one, a younger, much more athletic Garrett Wilson that you can't seem to figure things out with here. I don't love it at all because I don't know what happens to Garrett Wilson at that particular point. But it just appears that there has been a number of stories being reported that that's where he wants to go. Aaron Rodgers is pushing for it. They're saying that Aaron Rodgers was pushing for it big time after the loss to Denver, as obviously it wasn't great offensively there. Now we're seeing that Mike Williams is now being rumored to be the one who gets traded if Adams is in fact on the Jets' radar. This all coupled with the fact that Adams posted a cryptic picture of Edgar Allan Poe on his Instagram page earlier today, which of course everyone immediately felt that this was, given the fact that Poe's big poem had to be called The Raven. So everyone seems to think that, in fact, he was from Baltimore, that the Ravens were going to be the destination. And that was what Adams was hinting to with a picture of Edgar Allan Poe. Ravens make sense. Don't get me wrong. But let's face it, Lamar can't hit anybody now anyway. So I don't know that that would be Davante Adams' first choice. I mean, yes, I get he wants to come to the New York Jets. Makes all the sense in the world. I just don't know that it makes sense for the Jets outside of giving Rodgers another security blanket that he's already got in Alan Lazard. Also, keep this in mind. He's due $13.5 million. No matter who he would get traded to, there's got to be some sort of reworking of the contract because all teams are already maxed out with the salary cap as it is. Couple the fact that are the Jets giving up on Hassan Reddick? Is that it? Like there's no chance Hassan Reddick is going to suit up for the Jets this year? Because if he ends the holdout, let's say he decides next week that, all right, you know what, I'm ending the holdout, I'm coming to play. Well, then his salary automatically counts towards the cap. So there's a lot of moving parts here, not just, hey, I want to come and play with Aaron Rodgers. The Jets have Hassan Reddick hanging out over their head right now, trying to figure out what's going on with him. How can you afford Davante Adams when you won't negotiate with Hassan Reddick, who, by the way, would count up to $9 million towards the cap if he were to report? So the only way I see any of this happening is if Davante Adams agrees to take a lot less money than what is currently owed in the $13.5 million. It's the final year of a contract. Is he a rental for the Jets? He is 32 years old, but Mike Williams is now being reported available, and it does look like that ACL injury he's starting to round into form. He has been one of the more reliable Aaron Rodgers targets here. Big target, only 30 years old. He would be part of a trade if Adams, in fact, is coming to the New York Jets. But they are reporting it looks like Davante Adams, some deal will be done here within the next week. We'll see what happens. It would help if the Jets actually won Sunday in Minnesota and make life easier. Otherwise, you're putting a Band-Aid on open heart surgery here, thinking Davante Adams is going to make a damn bit of difference here to a team that can't protect against the blitz. But we'll know all we need to know come Sunday in London, Tottenham Stadium, when a little 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern time football takes center stage in the NFL. We'll have much more on that. We'll talk more NFL big games coming up in this Week 5 slate, college football, and of course, Major League Baseball playoffs tomorrow. All coming up here as Game Time Decisions continues.
talk about the regular season MVP because for a while it was just one name. Now a second name has emerged. Joseph, take it from here.
Yeah, look, every year I always tell people I bet two people for MVP. Usually it's Patrick Mahomes and somebody else to start the season.
Right.
And then I watch it shrink and then decide whether or not I want to double down, cash out, figure that out. This year was the first time where I did not see anybody else that I really could make a case for. I wanted to let it play out a little bit. And now I'm jumping in the pool to somebody else for that number two, that hedge. And that person's Josh Allen. And there's a couple reasons why. You've seen Vegas move significantly. The Bills are 3-0. Huge game coming up this weekend for them against the Ravens. But regardless if they win or lose, I think the Josh Allen narrative is an interesting one. Josh Allen is playing with kind of a no-name offense, right? You know, we know Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir and all those guys because we're fantasy nerds. But the general public does not know who these guys are. I'm telling you right now, if you went to the general football fan and say, what do you think of Khalil Shakir? They'd be like, who? I have no idea what you're talking about, right? And I think that is positive because it looks like Josh Allen is just literally taking this team, putting it on his shoulders, and willing them to victory every week. And that's because he is. And the shot that he took on Stephon Diggs, saying it's nice to play with a bunch of guys who just don't care about the stats, they just care about winning, I think tells you that Josh Allen feels free. He feels loose. And if you look at this award for the last couple of years, it's been dominated by a couple people, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar hasn't gotten off to the best start Patrick Mahomes still has. It's why he's towards the top of this award still. But after Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, the next closest guy is CJ Stroud at plus 1,400.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on this Friday in the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by as we are getting ready here for a big week in the NFL, Week 5. Great game last night. We get a little Sunday morning football in London this week with the Jets in Minnesota. We were just mentioning how the Friday news dump coming out here with the Jets close to signing Davante Adams, trading for him. Mike Williams could very well be on the move. Nobody has any idea what they're going to do with Hassan Reddick, but the Jets and Aaron Rodgers seem very active in trying to pursue a trade for Davante Adams. It won't happen, obviously, before London and Sunday, but there is reports that it will happen at some short period of time after that. The Jets remain a 2.5-point dog in this one. 40.5 is the total. There is rain in the forecast for this game here, but nothing will compare to the kind of rain and conditions they had to deal with last week at home against the Denver Broncos. We also have a couple of college football games that are already underway here. Jacksonville State taking on Kennesaw State, 7-3 right now. Jacksonville State up on that one. And Houston TCU is another game getting ready to kick off right now. And boy, Houston is just awful on so many levels, and they know it. It's going to be hard. Good old Willie Fritz leaves his longtime job there at Tulane, takes over to University of Houston. And boy, oh boy, they just don't have any players. They don't even have a opportunity, I think, to win more than maybe a game or two here. TCU should absolutely win this game. Does that mean that they're going to win it by margin? It's a big ask, even for TCU, who I think offensively will have no problem putting up the points here tonight. Houston has scored, I believe, 33 points in that win over Rice, who was terrible. But they've only averaged 5 points in their other 4 games, including being shut out by a pretty bad Cincinnati defense 2 weeks ago. This feels like a TCU blowout. I think they're better than average defensively, and I do think Houston's a pretty good defensive squad as well. but I can't. There's no way I'm going to run on a Friday night and lay this kind of number with TCU. It feels like maybe an under is not a bad play here, as Houston's defense is better than most people realize. They're just on the field the entire game because the offense can't sustain any drives. We're getting ready, of course, 9 o'clock Eastern time for a couple of big Friday night football games involving the UNLV running Rebels taking on Syracuse at home, laying 5.5, 6 here in this spot. The total continues to be bet down, 58.5 earlier in the week. Now we're seeing 55.5 here. We told you earlier, I do like UNLV in this one here. And the big reason is that UNLV's strength offensively is they run the ball. And they did it again last week, even with their backup quarterback. And the one caveat for this Syracuse defense is they can't stop the run. They're a terrible run defense. And boy, oh boy, that spells disaster for a UNLV team at home that loves to run the ball. That game coming up at 9. Also, Oregon at home taking on Michigan State. Michigan State now laying 23.5 here. That's a big number, especially it feels like Oregon's going to get out to such a big lead. The back door will be open in the second half, and Jonathan Smith, the new head coach of Michigan State, is not going to have any interest in getting blown out by 4 touchdowns against Oregon, who's got a pretty interesting schedule coming up here in the next couple of weeks. So starters might get pulled late, which means the back door for Michigan State will be wide open here. Dave Sharapan knows all about that because, well, he's walked through it every now and then. Sharapan, Oregon, listen, first of all, they haven't lived up offensively to how good we all thought they were going to be. But yeah, they're going to win this game. But they got bigger fish to fry than Michigan State. Doesn't feel like a great spot to be laying more than 3 touchdowns here. No.
Yes and no. A couple things. Michigan State's not good. They are really going to have a tough time scoring points. I think Oregon can write their score. That's another industry term that you hear in the book all the time. Well, they'll just write their score. If they decide to write 50, they're going to cover the spread. If they decide to write 34, and then Michigan State gets a touchdown and a field goal, gets 10, guess what? That falls right around that number. So I don't know, Joe. I don't want anything to do with Michigan State. I mean, you can take them plus the points, but we like to take the dogs when we think they got a shot to win. And if we don't think they got a shot to win, it's really not one that I want to get involved with. But I mean, you got me again, welcoming me in, talking about, going through, the back door and different things like that. You got me giggling. I had to mute my microphone. You got
just
me
pointing out the obvious, I thought, is what I was
I come in
doing
through the
there,
front
but
door, Joe. I like to come right
just-
through the front door. I ring the doorbell.
right through the front door.
Right through the front door.
I wouldn't
All right.
dream of saying anything else in that one there. I would not even think. But the UNLV game, though, you're running Rebels there in your backyard, getting ready to take on Syracuse. I like UNLV. I don't think it was a fluke. I don't think there's a letdown here. I think Syracuse is going to have their hands full trying to stop that running game. What are you hearing?
Pretty excited because, 1, there's a college football game in town tonight. 2, I got a credential. I'm going to the game. I was just down there to pick up the credential, back here to do the show. So here with you and then here with Wetzel following this show and then right to the game. So I'll be down there. There's a buzz, man. There's a real buzz. And the local media has been talking about this now all week. They were talking about UNLV for a lot of the wrong reasons last week. This week, it's been about the offense. And with a guy on BVB today who he's talking every day to the guys at practice. He's talking to the offensive coordinator. And he said they're trying to score 50 every game. That's the goal. So go offense. Our goal We don't stop until we get 50. And they did it last week against Fresno. They put up 59. I'm not sure Syracuse is going to be able to keep up. That's the question for me. Unless UNLV has a really bad game, -2 on the turnovers, -3 on the turnovers, and lose, I don't think they're losing. Now, it might be who has the ball last, right? I don't know, Joe.
Right.
See the side, you see the total. Which one doesn't seem like it goes with the other? 55.5 is a lot of points, is it not?
Well, it was 58.5, Dave. That's the interesting part, is it was 58.5, and now we're seeing 55.5. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that UNLV, in all likelihood, will control time of possession. Syracuse's defense is not going to be able to get off the field. And then they're very one-dimensional it is. So they can't run the ball, Syracuse. I don't think UNLV's defense gets enough credit either. I think maybe the market has figured that out. I don't like McCord at all.
When you watch the game, I watched the game last week. Their defensive pressure is so, one, aggressive, but two, the ends are fast. Like they got to the quarterback a lot. If they hit the Syracuse quarterback a lot, causing turnovers, this could get ugly again. This could be a blowout.
Yes. Yeah. It very well could. And at that particular point, I don't know about that total. We'll see, though. Game Time Decisions continues.
Talk about the regular season MVP, because for a while it was just one name. Now a second name has emerged. Joseph, take it from here.
Yeah, look, every year I always tell people I bet two people for MVP. Usually it's Patrick Mahomes and somebody else to start the season.
Right.
And then I watch it shrink and then decide whether or not I want to double down, cash out, figure that out. This year was the first time where I did not see anybody else that I really could make a case for. I wanted to let it play out a little bit. And now I'm jumping in the pool to somebody else for that number two, that hedge. And that person's Josh Allen. And there's a couple reasons why. You've seen Vegas move significantly. The Bills are 3-0. Huge game coming up this weekend for them against the Ravens. But regardless if they win or lose, I think the Josh Allen narrative is an interesting one. Josh Allen is playing with kind of a no-name offense, right? You know, we know Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir and all those guys because we're fantasy nerds. But the general public does not know who these guys are. I'm telling you right now, if you went to the general football fan and say, what do you think of Khalil Shakir? They'd be like, who? I have no idea what you're talking about, right? And I think that is positive because it looks like Josh Allen is just literally taking this team, putting it on his shoulders, and willing them to victory every week. And that's because he is. And the shot that he took on Stephon Diggs, saying it's nice to play with a bunch of guys who just don't care about the stats, they just care about winning, I think tells you that Josh Allen feels free. He feels loose. And if you look at this award for the last couple of years, it's been dominated by a couple people, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar hasn't gotten off to the best start Patrick Mahomes still has. It's why he's towards the top of this award still. But after Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, the next closest guy is C.J. Stroud at plus 1,400.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Dave Sharapan coming through the front door, I'm told here, as he is getting ready, no doubt, for the UNLV Syracuse game as he picked up his passes. Make sure you go through the front of the building there, Dave,
right in the front.
With that pass of yours. And I'm also very interested, your thoughts here about these games coming up tomorrow. Is all four of the divisional matchups will take center stage going head-to-head against college football tomorrow. But I mentioned it last hour. I'll say it again. Outside of the Yankee-Royals game, which feels like the one chalk you can be confident in advancing, every other dog in the series in those games, to me, feels very much alive. What do you think?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And in a strange kind of way, I feel like even the Yankees are susceptible to being upset if the pitching for the Royals, I mean, if they can somehow find a way to win the Walker game, which I don't think they will, but then they win the Reagans game and the Lugo game, they got a shot, obviously, to win a series if they can get both of those. But I can't wait to watch the Dodgers and the Padres. That's going to be absolute must-watch television out west. I've been watching the games all season with those two, thinking that those two would be in it to represent the National League. So I don't want to say the team that wins this is going to actually win the National League, because I don't know who's going to win it. Right now, I'm favoring the Padres, but it seems like a lot of people are. The price is right. It's plus. Cease is going in the first game. If they get that one, then they flip it to the favorite. They won 9 times. I believe it was 9-4 or 8-5 during the regular season. So, again, throw those out, except for the last couple series, because the teams were different. But the East Coast series everybody's talking about. It's not Cleveland-Detroit, which is going to be a great series. I think that one's going 4 minimum, maybe 5. It's the Mets. The Mets and the Phillies, man. I mean, you're watching that game last night, and you're in Philadelphia, and you're going, all right, just hold on. I mean, come on. Hold on, Brewers. We'd rather have you.
Right.
I think the Mets go in super live in that spot. I'm not just saying that because Kofsky's here, and I got Vinny later. We played a Mets package 8 to 10 times a show every night. We've been talking about them for 2 months, Joe. 2 months with this Mets team. They're down to nothing in the last inning, and Polar Bear hits that home run. Oh, you've seen it. I've seen it. This is that time of year when stuff happens that you can't explain. You just can't. And he hits an opposite field home run to take the lead in the top of the ninth. Everything's working out that way. I think that's going to be another monster series. Dog is live.
And why is the market is pricing Philadelphia, as far as I'm concerned, like they weren't a 500 team for almost half the season, Dave? It was the April, May, and June that in which they took well advantage of a awfully easy schedule. But outside of that, July, August, September, it's a 500 Phillies team. They have not been playing their best baseball. And boy, the Phillies were always like the Mets, that team that played their best at the end of the season, and they'd ride that through. What am I missing here with this Phillies team? Because they've been a 500 baseball team for half the season.
So the price is priced the way it is because if you look at the starting pitchers, you know who's going for the Phillies. I don't even know if the Mets have named the starter yet for game 1. Right?
Kodai Senga. Yeah.
Officially? So that's
officially
listed?
Kodai Senga.
Okay, so they're going to string
luck.
it. so the market's doing what you're doing. The Phillies are going to win the Wheeler game, right? They're going to win the Wheeler game. So they've already – odds makers got ahead of the price, moved it up. If anybody saw it and bet it at the lower price, it's gone. And now, you get the situation where – I mean, if you're debating on whether to go to game 3 or game 4, I think you should go to game 4 because there's a possibility of an elimination versus going to game 3 because there's no sweep. I don't think this series would surprise me the most if there's a sweep either way. Okay, I think the Padres could sweep the Dodgers if they get the right pitching lined up. The Dodgers pitching is a mess. I'm not sure the Dodgers could sweep the Padres. Cleveland and Detroit could sweep either way, but I think that one's going the distance. And everyone assumes the Yankees are going to sweep the Royals. I don't. I think we're getting at least 4 games. So the market has spoken. They think the Phillies are going to win game 1. That's what that number tells me, Joe.
There isn't a game in which the Phillies won't have a major starting pitching advantage, and which is good because they won't have to go to the bullpen very often, and that is where things get a little dicey with them. But Wheeler gives you 7-8 innings. Nola gives you 7-8 innings. This could be, I think Phillies laying a game and a half is plus money still. I think you can get them winning 3-0, 3-1 at a pretty decent price, somewhere along those lines. If you think the pitching advantage is big enough for Philadelphia, then lay the game and a half, because I'm with you. I don't think it makes it to 5 games. I think the Phillies, that pitching advantage will be too much. But to your point, we said the same thing about Arizona last year. Did we not? Right around this time?
I loved Arizona last year. I had those crazy exacta prices on them.
Yep. Yes.
And it's starting to happen again, because I was grabbing Mets tickets when nobody else was. I kept saying something magic's going on with this team. You're talking about playing your best ball at the end. They are playing their best ball at the end. Talking about getting wins, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. They just did it. I mean, they just did it.
Yep.
So they weren't even 100% to make the playoffs until the last 4 days of the season. And then they still had to win one game on the last day, on the makeup day. So there's something to be said for playing that high leverage baseball in September. Phillies haven't played a high leverage baseball game in 2 months.
Yep. Well, and that's the rest versus rust conversation. We'll have that before we get Dave out of here as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
Talk about the regular season MVP, because for a while it was just one name. Now a second name has emerged. Joseph, take it from here.
Yeah, look, every year I always tell people I bet 2 people for MVP. Usually it's Patrick Mahomes and somebody else to start the season. And then I watch it shrink and then decide whether or not I want to double down, cash out, figure that out. This year was the first time where I did not see anybody else that I really could make a case for. I wanted to let it play out a little bit. And now I'm jumping in the pool to somebody else for that number 2, that hedge. And that person's Josh Allen. And there's a couple reasons why. You've seen Vegas move significantly. The Bills are 3-0. Huge game coming up this weekend for them against the Ravens. But regardless if they win or lose, I think the Josh Allen narrative is an interesting one. Josh Allen is playing with kind of a no-name offense, right? You know, we know Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir and all those guys because we're fantasy nerds. But the general public does not know who these guys are. I'm telling you right now, if you went to the general football fan and say, what do you think of Khalil Shakir? They'd be like, who? I have no idea what you're talking about, right? And I think that is positive because it looks like Josh Allen is just literally taking this team, putting it on his shoulders, and willing them to victory every week. And that's because he is. And the shot that he took on Stephon Diggs, saying it's nice to play with a bunch of guys who just don't care about the stats, they just care about winning, I think tells you that Josh Allen feels free. He feels loose. And if you look at this award for the last couple of years, it's been dominated by a couple people, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar hasn't gotten off to the best start Patrick Mahomes still has. It's why he's towards the top of this award still. But after Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, the next closest guy is CJ Stroud at plus 1,400.
Welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here as we look to close out this Friday edition here, getting ready for a monster weekend here. A little something for everyone, including the NHL being back. Had that first game in the books here today with the Sabres losing again. Shocker. But Tuesday, the puck will drop on the regular season. We've got, of course, Major League Baseball playoffs starting here, and Dave Sharapan taking over at the top of the hour with Scotty Wetzel. Some great college football games scheduled here tonight. But we mentioned it. rest versus rust in these playoffs, Dave, for Major League Baseball. Man, the Guardians' last game was canceled of the regular season. They haven't played, and it feels like forever. The Yankees haven't played. There's a lot of, you said it, there's something to be said for having continued to play meaningful baseball in the stretch. Does anybody get caught because they're a little rusty here, you think?
For sure. I think all of the favorites are susceptible to losing, except the one least would be Wheeler in Phillies. Yeah.
Right.
I think Padres can get the Dodgers for sure. The Royals, if they get to Cole early and get into that bullpen, of course they can. They've been unbelievable protecting a lead. Now they may only get 2 runs, and I don't know if they can protect a 2-run lead against the Yankee lineup. And the Tigers 100%. I don't know how they call it chaos. That's what Hinch is calling his bullpen, how he's managing. But chaos may win over Bibby. It's possible. I think that the layoff is good for the pitchers, not so good for the hitters. And if it catches them, I mean, all the home teams at worst, should be getting a split this week.
I agree.
This weekend, Saturday, Sunday.
Yep.
If they don't, it's over. I don't think they come back. I mean, it's that close where, the Tigers got schoolboy in the second game. The teams that play, Joe, have their aces or top guys going in game 2. It's vital that the home teams and the favorites win game 1, the teams with the bye. They have to.
They're going to absolutely have to here. And, I mean, if they don't go well, either which way, I think Detroit, if they can extend and win 1, you're going to see Skubal twice, no? You're going to have to see Skubal twice there, I think, which makes that series a lot closer.
The way the games space out, it's very possible because they play Saturday. They don't play until Monday. And then they play Wednesday, Thursday. And then there's another travel day. So he would pitch game 5. He would pitch 2 and 5 the way it lines up. So I don't know. I can't wait. There's just there's so many good games. Before I go, I got to ask you, Tennessee blows out Arkansas. What do you think?
I can't imagine sweating out an under in that game, Dave. I just can't imagine how is that. I don't know how either team is going to stop one another there. Arkansas and Pittman have been money as dogs in this kind of spot here. And are we really believing Tennessee's defense is this good to go on the road against what they did against Oklahoma, Dave? Let's throw it out the window because Oklahoma's offense is hot trash. This is an offense that can move the ball. That's a big ask. I think the over is the way to go. It's your Penn State team that I'm worried about laying over 4 touchdowns against you. Everyone lays 4 touchdowns against UCLA, and they keep covering, Dave.
UCLA can't score. My buddy Doug Kazarian we were just texting earlier today about this game specifically, and I said, I don't think UCLA scores more than 13 points. So if they get more than 13, you can get the total over and maybe get a cover. But you talk about a game next week. Penn State's coming out west next week. They're at USC. It's a 2.5-point line. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. I think it's good. I think they score 34 to 41 points against UCLA. As long as they hold them down, they'll cover the spread. Then we'll focus on coming out west and getting that win at the Coliseum. I got to go, Joe.
Yeah,
you got to run.
Get out of here. The back door's open there, Sheriff.
Back door.
Go out the back door. Wetzel's waiting for you as In-Game Live is getting ready. Don't forget to wash your hands. All right, that'll do it here for Game Time Decisions. We'll be back again tomorrow. Loaded weekend. It's going to be an awful lot of fun this weekend. Enjoy it, but don't go anywhere. As In-Game Live with Dave Sherapan and Scotty Wetzel is coming up next. We'll see you again tomorrow. Enjoy the night. We'll see you again soon here on The Grid.